Hello everyone, Eric Teacher here, and this is a guide to Nigel Warburton's A Little History of Philosophy, where we will go over the first 10 chapters of philosophers, their key ideas, and how it applies to us today. So with that, let's get started. Our first philosopher is also the very first Greek philosopher, Socrates. And Socrates' big idea was that wisdom starts by noticing how little we actually know. He taught by asking questions to make people think and challenge their beliefs. Today, we can look at that as don't be afraid to ask yourself questions on why do you believe this? How do we know this? Before acting. And we should always question any new information we hear. Next is another ancient Greek philosopher who is one of the students of Socrates, Plato. Plato's big idea is that the world we see is like a shadow of a perfect world of just ideas called forms. He wanted us to look past appearances to find what was real. An example of this could be the drawing of a dog. Now, it's not a real dog, but it helps give us an idea of what a dog is. And his ideas we can apply to modern use, which is we should question appearances and what shadows are distracting us, what shadows are distracting other people, what can we find that is real. He also believed that we should value expert knowledge when we are making big decisions. And let me know if you agree with this. Schools should teach critical thinking, not just memorizing facts and numbers. Continuing with the ancient Greek philosophers, we have Plato's student, Aristotle. And Aristotle's big idea is that instead of thinking about shadows and ideas, that we should focus on the physical world. And he also believed that we should try to be happy, and that we can do that by having good habits and finding balance. We should still today practice good habits. And also we should aim for balanced choices. We should never try to be too much or too little of anything, that we should find a good balance in the world. And that we should test ideas with our own observations, not just believe what we're told, but to actually test it in the real world. All right, so next we have the two Greek philosophers, Pyrrho and Epicurus, and they teach us how to find peace. So first we'll start with Pyrrho's big idea, which is that we cannot be 100% certain about anything. So we must doubt everything. And doubting everything will bring us peace and calm. Today we can use that to not just jump to quick conclusions or quick judgments. When a friend tells us new information, we should consider maybe it's not true. And that can help us from making a rash decision because we have time to then stop and think. And Pyrrho would also look at the internet today and probably always doubt that anything is real. Maybe it's AI generated. But for Epicurus, his big idea is that we should not fear death, but that we should know, life is short. Let's enjoy the simple pleasures. Things that we know we can have, like good food, good friends, enjoying time with family, and ask if a want is truly what will make us happy. So our last three ancient Greek philosophers are all part of the same group called the Stoics. And the Stoics believe that our thoughts are up to us. And they include Epictetus, Cicero, and Seneca. Their idea is that we cannot control everything in this world. So we can focus on what we can control, our thoughts and our actions. And if we cannot control something, just accept it. And the modern use, what we can take from that today, is when we are angry or upset, we should ask ourselves, can I change this? Can I change what's causing this? And the Stoics would say, if yes, then change it. If not, then we shouldn't let it worry us and stress us. So similar to Pyrrho, we should pause to think and not instantly react. All right, so we're moving away from the ancient Greek philosophers and on to the medieval thinkers who are trying to figure out how their faith and belief in God can work with philosophy and reason. So our first medieval thinker is Augustine, and his big idea, his big question was, where does evil come from? Why does evil exist? And he concluded that evil comes from humans' free will. It comes from human choices. We choose to do good things or we choose to do bad things. And this applies to us today because we are still asking ourselves, why is there so much evil in the world? And that we cannot blame this on some unseen force. The evil in the world comes from human choices, and we know that now. But why is there still evil then? The next medieval thinker we have is Boethius. And Boethius was trying to find, how can we be happy? And for him, true happiness does not come from things that are always changing, like your luck or how much power you have or how much money you have. Because these are always changing, we cannot rely on them to be happy. So happiness must come from something unchanging. For him, God is unchanging. And how does that apply to us today? Well, it means that we shouldn't rely on gambling. We shouldn't rely on becoming richer to be happy. We shouldn't believe that, oh, if I just buy this one pack of Pokemon cards or something, that will make us happy forever. It's always changing. And so we should find something permanent. And so you should ask yourself, what permanent thing can you find to make you happy? And our last medieval thinker on this slide is Anselm. And for him, he was trying to prove that God existed, and he had to find a way to do that. So he thought about, well, we can imagine the greatest possible being, and that must be God. That means that God is real because the greatest possible being wouldn't just exist in our thoughts as an idea, it must exist in reality. And the way that we can take that to use in a modern day is when we are thinking and coming up with solutions, it's kind of a mix between logic and reasoning and imagination. They have to work together. And that we cannot just follow anything blindly. We need to think about it. We need to ask questions. Like Socrates said, always question your beliefs. Our last medieval thinker is Thomas Aquinas. And his big idea is that the whole universe is built on cause and effect. This happened because this happened, because this happened, because this happened. And that if we keep following that trail back to the beginning of the universe, what caused the universe to be born, that is where we'll find God, because he is the uncaused cause. That is the existence before existence. Today, we can take that as we should look at observations and step-by-step reasonings to solve problems. We can always ask ourselves, what caused this? And try to link it back to a cause that matters. It ultimately shows what the medieval thinkers were trying to prove, which is that science and faith are not two different things fighting each other, but that they can work together to answer questions. Our next philosopher is Niccolo Machiavelli, who focused on questions about power and leadership. His big ideas were that first, humans are selfish and power hungry. And so politics, which is about leadership, are about power and survival. Leaders, rulers need to make harsh choices. So it is better to be feared than loved if you are a leader, especially if you cannot be both. Then we also have, how can we use that today? Well, we can look at leaders today. Good leaders, like teachers, sometimes have to make unpopular choices to protect the group. And we have to understand that being kind is great if you're a leader, but being strong and fair is important too. If you become a leader and no one respects or listens to you, will anything get done? And our last philosopher is Thomas Hobbes. And his big idea is that the natural world is dangerous and full of chaos and violent. And in nature, humans would just be stealing from each other and hurting each other, and it's just a bad place to be. And so he believed that. We decided to make a social contract, which is we agreed to give up some freedom to a ruler or like a government so that we can be safe and live a better life than we would in nature. But this asks the question, especially today, how much freedom are we willing to give up to be safe? How much power are we willing to give up? Because like Aristotle said, it's about balance. If we give up too much freedom, then we are prisoners. But if we don't have enough security, we're living in a dangerous world. So where's the balance, and how can we know? So that concludes our summary of the first philosophers from our book. So please remember, to be a good philosopher, we should ask questions, we should find balance, and we should control our thoughts. And with that, I'll say goodbye. Until next time, everyone.